Scambaiting is the art of wasting a scammer's time in order to prevent them from talking to a real victim. Over the years, for me, that has included not only wasting their time, but also gathering information to report such as bank accounts, emails, phone numbers, websites, and remote access connections being used for fraud. And over the years, the scambaiting community has grown drastically. Many have taken up scambaiting and have done some incredible work in educating people on different types of scams, as well as exposing the people behind them. I want to tell you about how I was introduced to the world of online scams, and for that, we have to go back to 2016. Sometimes life's pivotal moments hide in the ordinary, and for me, it was some unexpected messages and a social media post. Out of respect for the persons involved, I'm going to share a reenactment of the messages that were exchanged. My friend messaged me saying that she was really sad because her friend told her that he was going off to war in Nigeria and that if she didn't hear from him in 2 to 3 weeks, it meant that he was dead. About a week later, I get a message from a mutual friend saying that our friend was now engaged. So I messaged my sad friend back asking if she was engaged, and she said yes, she was, and began sending message after message, almost as if to justify the shocking news. She said that he was kind and loved her and was the man of her dreams, and that once he got there, they would marry and begin their lives together. And when she said she hoped I would be happy for her, all I could think of saying was, I hope it's true, and of course, if you're happy, then I'm happy for you. And within a couple of days, our mutual friend messaged me back saying she's being catfished and that she just had a hunch. And I told her, yeah, they haven't met yet. You might be right. And for the next few hours, all I could think about was what my friend said. She's being catfished. Catfishing is when someone creates a fake identity online to deceive another person, commonly in a romantic context. They use someone else's photos and personal details to make themselves appear real. The person being impersonated is usually unaware that their photos and information are being used for this purpose. And the motivation for catfishing is usually bad and may include sexual or financial gain or loneliness. This idea of catfishing was really new to me. I had no idea that people would actually do that to other people online. So we decided to do some Google reverse image searches on this man who was supposedly engaged to our friend. We came across a couple of forums that showed this guy's picture, and it told us that this person in fact was being used as a catfish. So we set up something like an intervention where we would go and talk to our friend and let her know that we believed that she was being catfished. Now, once we provided her with the website of this person being used as a catfish, they didn't believe us at first. In fact, they actually pushed back and said, there's no way. He's so kind to me. He speaks so nicely to me. He makes me feel good. She got into this really defensive kind of mode, and we were not sure what to do. We didn't know what else to say. I mean, we had that proof right there and it didn't seem to be enough. So we looked towards other things to see if we could somehow, some way find a picture of this guy. And we came across a different service called TinEye. Now, keep in mind that this is back in 2016. And at that time, that was kind of what was available. Now, there's a lot more stuff. We were actually able to pin down a Twitter account of the real person who was being impersonated. And then when we presented that to our friend, that's actually when it hit her. What I didn't expect was to see how it would hit her. I mean, it literally broke her. It was so painful to see the deep crying, the deep hurt. I can't really explain it. All I can tell you is my heart broke for her. And it was at that moment that I realized that there are some extremely evil people in the world that befriend lonely people, people who are just looking for companionship, for friendships online, and then socially engineer them to the point where this person becomes so attached emotionally that the idea that this person could be lying to you is not even something that they consider. They truly believe this person is who they say they are. Anything that that person wants or says at that point, the victim is willing to do and to give. So at that point, she confronted the scammer. The scammer denied, said he was a real person. What was she doing? and she ended up blocking him. To this day, on occasion, we still follow up with her and ask her if she's good, if things are okay, if she's received any messages kind of similar to that, and we just kind of keep an eye on her to make sure that she's still okay. Now, if you want to learn more about catfishing, I would suggest a channel called Catfished. They are a great resource for showing you the ins and outs of how catfishing works. So that was my very first experience with online scams, and it wasn't even directed at me. But fast forward a couple of years and I had an app on my phone that let you listen to different radio stations across the country. And I came across a radio station that had just said Canada Revenue Agency scammers had called them, and they put the number out onto the airwaves and said, give the scammers a call and then call us back and let us know how it goes. And so I did. Now, my very first call lasted maybe about 10 to 15 seconds, and it was just me doing an accent on the scammers, and the scammers just swore at me. So I called the radio station and I said, hey, this is what happened. I did some accent and they lost it. And they said, could we call you tomorrow and have you make a call for us? And I said, sure. This is my very first full Scambait call, which just so happened to be on the radio. So they sent me a recording of the call and I decided to make a YouTube video out of it. Now, what I did not expect was to publish the video and for the video to get a lot of views. Well, to me at that time, I don't think I had any subscribers. So within the first month, 4,000 views was quite a lot. And at that time, I was subscribed to a bunch of different prank channels. Channels like Roman Atwood, Ed Bassmaster, Tom Mabe, The Jerky Boys, and Ownage Pranks. So I thought to myself, hold on a second. I grew up around a lot of people from all over the world, and I was able to kind of pick up accents here and there, some better than others. And I thought, what if I just spent my time pranking scammers? But the challenge that I had is I didn't have a very good computer. I didn't have any way to really call scammers and record. I didn't really know very much about OBS and any of that kind of stuff. And so I was kind of a little stuck. I didn't really know how to do it. Obviously, not all my calls were going to be on the radio. So I decided to download an app onto my phone that would record the prank calls. I would then call them up using my phone number and record the call. And so around that same time, I started looking for scam prank calls on YouTube, and I came across a live stream from Joe Scambait. So Joe Scambait was the very first Scambaiter that I've ever watched live. So I decided to go into the chat asking questions about how to do it properly and so forth and so on. And it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, making around 20 to 30 videos on my channel from my actual phone number that I realized that I shouldn't be using my own phone number to make these calls. So a lot of people like Little Peace, The Bashful Scambaiter, Luke's Doghouse, Adam IRS IREX Scammers, Skeleton Siski, Nikki, Karen, G-Man, all these people, they would basically make suggestions to me about different voice over internet protocols that I could use. And so I decided to start doing those. After about a year or so of calling the Canada Revenue Agency scammers, the CRA scam started to die down. And so I began calling the Social Security scammers or the IRS scammers. But I did not want to necessarily call the tech support scams or the refund scams because I felt too scared about them connecting to my computer. I didn't really have a handle on how virtual machines worked and all that kind of stuff and how to safely allow a scammer to connect to my computer, so I tried not to. But when I did call the tech support or refund scammers, I would try to waste as much of their time up until the part where they are telling me to download something to connect. And one day I was on a live stream where I heard a victim being scammed in real time, and we heard their phone number, and a bunch of us started calling that victim to tell them not to send the scammers any money, not to buy the gift cards, none of that stuff. The scammers kept telling them, those are the hackers, those are the hackers, don't answer, those are the hackers. And right then and there, I saw the reality of how much the scammers really try to control the situation and try to pit us, who are trying to save the victims, against the very victims themselves. The person did end up getting scammed, and it was really heartbreaking. I felt like we were so close, you know, we were really close. And so during my live streams or whenever I would call scammers, I would try to be a little bit more vigilant about things that were going on in the background with these scammers, hearing phone numbers, hearing victims talking to them to see if there was somehow, some way that I could intervene. And over the years, I've been very blessed. I've been able to work with some incredible people and meet some very incredible people as well. And it goes without saying that the People's Call Center has been very impactful. Sometimes during my live streams and in comment sections, I get asked various questions like, is call flooding effective? Should I just waste a scammer's time? How do I do this? What more can I do even though I'm not a scambaiter? Like, how can I help slow these scammers down? So I asked you guys to ask me anything about scambaiting. And before I go and answer any of these questions, I personally just want to say that in my opinion, it all works. Call flooding, wasting scammers' time, reporting, prank calling them, as long as you're preventing them from talking to a real victim, it's all good. I'm more of the opinion that we would work better if we all worked together, because hopefully we all have the same goal of slowing scammers down and educating people, but we don't live in a utopia and not everybody gets along. So the very first question comes from Justinium77. He asks, can scambaiting help you get into the... What the... Yo, bro, seriously? What kind of question is this, man? Yes, it can. All right, the next question is one that I get asked a lot. What do you need to do in order to get started in scambaiting? First, I think you need to decide why you want to get into scambaiting. I think that's a really important thing to analyze first, because I do think that that kind of determines the projection of your scambaiting career per se. Am I saying you can get into this for the wrong reasons? Yeah. Sometimes if you get into it for the wrong reasons, it can really cloud your judgment and you can make some really, really bad and poor decisions as far as scambaiting goes. Then you have to decide what type of scambaiter you want to be. Do you want to do the prank calls and waste their time? Do you want to try to reverse connections and gain access to their computers and delete their files? Do you want to expose them? Do you want to gain access to their phone system and their CCTV and find out where the call centers are? Do you want to do that kind of thing? And I think once you decide what you want to do, then you can take it to that next step. Regardless of what you decide to do, you'll need to do a few things. First and foremost, don't ever use your own phone number. Use something like a VoIP, like Skype, Text Now, or Google Voice. Now, if you don't want to prank call alone and you want to get them to connect to your computer, you'll have to use something called a virtual machine. I would suggest looking at Jim Browning's tutorial on how to do that. The virtual machine basically acts as a computer inside of your computer. Now, before you let anyone connect to your virtual machine, this very next step that I'm about to tell you is crucial. Use a VPN. Using a VPN will protect you from scammers finding out where your real location is. And so when they connect to your virtual machine, if they were ever to go onto your browser and type in bank near me or what's my IP, the VPN will mask where that is and it keeps you safe as well. But with that being said, I don't think everyone should be a scambaiter, because scambaiting can be very, very, very dangerous. And you have to remember, we're dealing with criminals, so what we do is disrupting their money-making scheme. I do think there are other ways that you can help, and I'll cover that in another question. The next question comes from Rosa Edge, and she asks, would you help make videos for people in Spanish? I ask because you are Hispanic. I feel like Hispanics don't have much information about the types of scams. Yes, in fact, you can go right over here and check out the Spanish playlist. Okay, this next answer, I think will answer these three questions. Crochet Lover 85 says, how are you mentally able to stay in character for so long? When I think about it, I get exhausted. The other question comes from Narcissister. It says, after interacting with a scammer trying to steal every last penny from an old and maybe demented person by lying, cheating, cursing, yelling, being all nice and lovey-dovey, do you feel like you lost faith in humanity? I always wonder what it does to scambaiters to interact with these soulless thieves. And from Amreem10, who says, what do you do when a scammer is very aggressive towards you, but you don't want to hang up the call just yet? These are three great questions. And I think for me, I always just kind of keep my mind on what's the end game. The end game is to make them believe that I'm a real victim. So I try not to break kayfabe, or I try not to break character, unless of course I'm just doing like prank calls and trying to just get them pissed off really quickly so that they think everyone who's calling them might be baiting them. I'll let them yell at me, I'll let them curse me out, I'll let them treat me like how they unfortunately treat a lot of people, just to get to the point where I can try to report something like their number, their banking accounts that they're using to scam people through, their Zelle accounts, or their connection, so that way that we can kind of slow them down in that sense. So do I lose faith in humanity when I hear people talk like that? I mean, it doesn't make me think anything great about them. That's for sure. I definitely think they're scumbags. And the last question comes from MaggieBerry9117, who says, aside from warning friends and family about scams, what is the best thing top of funnel baiters like me, no tech skills, can do to hinder scammers. What Maggie Berry is referring to is this scam calls funnel that Pierogi from Scammer Payback created a couple of years ago. And in it, he basically describes the different levels that people are at with regards to the scam call process. So for example, the top level of that funnel is scam baiting, call flooding, and wasting time. Now I can't speak for every other scam baiter, but when a scammer sends me to a website that downloads something like Screen Connect, ConnectWise, which is really, really dangerous, what I'm starting to do now more so than ever is asking people to report the website to the host. That way it slows the scammer down and they might have to create another website or pay for another website. In my opinion, that is another way to kind of hinder them, because now they've run into a hiccup where their website is no longer working to be able to get people to download this remote access software. Another thing that you could do is, if you come across a scammer number, is to share it with the scam baiters that are out there who are constantly calling people and so forth and so on. Now, there's a lot of scam baiters that don't have channels. There's a lot of great scam baiters that you never see. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. But if you forward those phone numbers over, we can share them within each other and help each other out so that we can bait those scammers and see what we can get, what information we can get from them. This journey has had a lot of ups and downs, but definitely one of growth. If you decide to start engaging with scammers, please know that you do so at your own risk, so please be safe. Thank you to each and every one of you for your support over the last few years. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't, make sure that you do. Thank you so much for the likes, for the shares, for the comments, the good ones, and of course the criticisms. I really, really do appreciate it. And of course, a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. Sometimes there might be people who may try to impersonate me either in the comments or on other social media platforms. But if you're ever in doubt, please check the video description of each of my videos. That is where all my links are, and also in the about section of my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and let's continue this journey together. Peace.